Hey, what's going on? So today I wanted to talk about something that I think some producers struggle with when they're first trying to make their track, and that is bass lines. Sometimes a bass line I think can really carry your track, depending on what kind of song you're making. So having a really strong bass line as a foundation for the rest of your beat is really going to make it easier to develop that good song. So I wanted to go through a process that I go through whenever I'm struggling trying to develop a bass line. And this is, some credit goes here to Bootsy Collins, the famous bassist. I saw a number of years ago a short video of him, how he sort of comes up with funky bass lines, and I have tried to incorporate that in some degree, which I'm going to go through to implement into your own tracks. So first thing I'm going to do is just record a drum pattern, because once we have that, we'll be able to demonstrate some bass notes on top of that, and it'll just make a bit more sense in terms of actually applying it. So I'll just start off by recording a basic 4 on the floor type of beat. So the first thing you want to do when developing your bass line is pick a key that your song's going to be in. If you don't have a lot of experience with keys and scales, I'm going to be using a really simple one in this video, which is F sharp. Basically, it's just all of the black keys as well as this B and the F. So it'll be like this. This is the scale. Once you've decided what scale you're going to use, what key you're going to be in, you want to pick 2 notes that you want to base your bass line off of. The first note is going to start at the beginning of the first bar, and then the second note is going to start at the beginning of the second bar. You can also do this for 4, 8 bars, and just first start off by picking those notes that are gonna start off each of your bars. So I'll show you what I mean. Today I am just going to choose these 2 notes. I think they go pretty well together, so that is a D sharp and a G sharp. So to start off, we'll show you how that sounds with the drums. So as you could hear right now, the bass line is really boring, really simplistic. We have 2 notes that are just stabbing at the beginning of each of the bars, and it really doesn't go anywhere or add much to the track. So now what the whole idea is to try to connect these 2 notes. And there's a number of different ways that we can do that, and we're going to go through those right now. Because what we want to avoid doing is just holding those 2 notes for the 2 bars. We don't want to do this. It's just, it doesn't go anywhere. So we want to try to add some texture, add some flavor to connect those 2 notes together. The first way you can do that is by changing the pattern. Even if we just stick with those 2 notes, we can still make a fairly interesting bass line. So to do that, you're just filling in the space between the first and second hit with the same notes, but you're adding some variation in terms of the pattern. I'll show you what I mean. So here's how it would sound if we implemented that strategy into this track. So as you could hear there, we had a bit more of an interesting pattern just because we're adding some stabs, we're letting the beat breathe a little bit with the space in between. We weren't just holding the notes, we're adding a little bit of flavor just with the pattern of the timing of when we're going to hit the notes. So that's the first thing you can do. The second, which I find to be a really useful trick to incorporate into beats, is an octave jump. And what I mean by that is we're still only going to be playing 2 notes, technically. So as I said, we have the D sharp and the G sharp, but we also have up here a D sharp and a G sharp. So if you're able to jump between octaves like this, you're still only playing 2 notes, but it's adding a lot more funkiness. And I incorporate this in a ton of my bass lines, especially when you're ending off a bar with a octave jump. It's going to make it transition into the next bar so much cleaner. And I'll add also, when you're using this strategy, you can be using a keyboard, you can be using an actual bass guitar, whatever instrument you're using to create your bass line, this will be able to implement into. So I'll play that along with the drums just so you can hear how that sounds. As you could hear there, I was still leaving some room to breathe with the bass line. I'm not just doing this. You want to make sure that you don't have the instrument playing 24/7 throughout the beat. You want to leave a little bit of time for it to breathe, and those moments of silence with the bass line are really going to make it stand out in terms of when you actually are playing the notes. So now that we have those 2 tricks that we can implement, the last thing that we can do is insert a few sort of melody lines in the key that we're in into the bass line to transition from one note to the next. And this one is a bit more advanced. It just takes some time, and you just kind of have to see play around a little bit and see what you like. But what we're doing here is we're still sticking with the 2 things we know, which is we're going to do some different stabs and variations with the 2 notes. And we're also going to do those octave jumps. And those sound great, but once you want to take those bass lines to the next level, then you really want to start adding in some of those pickup notes and some variations and patterns, so that when you go from one note to the next, it's really adding a lot of funk and rhythm and detail into your track. So in the key we're in right now, it's going to be really easy, because even if we just stick to the black keys, we'll be able to find different patterns that we like. So I'm going to play around a little bit, see if I can find something I like, and then I'll implement that into the beat. Let's see what we can do. Okay, I think that bass line turned out pretty funky. Just again, you're just trying to find 2 notes or however many bars you want. I could have done 4 bars where the variations would have maybe been these notes. And then connecting those, I'd do something like this. Or something along those lines. But basically I'm taking the 4 or however many basic notes you're taking from that bass line, and then trying to connect those notes using different variations that we went through. So now that we have this bass line, I think we should keep progressing this beat, just so you can hear how we can actually implement this. I find that once you have a really nice intricate bass line, you don't have to be too intricate with the rest of the instruments that you're putting into your beat. So even if we add chords on top of this, I think it will sound really nice. Let's see how that sounds. Alright, I think that's it for this beat. I hope this video can help you develop your bass lines. Give it a thumbs up if you like the video. Let me know in the comments what you want to see in a future video. And I love you so much. Really appreciate you hanging out. Thank you.